Hello there everyone, and welcome to the Darkwood review. We've beaten the game, and thus I feel I can probably give the game a review at this point. I don't like reviewing games until I have beaten them, or until I've arrived at a point where there's so many bugs and frustration that I simply will be unable to finish the game without complaining every single second that I'm playing it. And as usual, down below in the comments section, you will find a comment from me, which will have the categories listed there and the scores I give each category for the game that I have played through. Over on BitChute, by the way, I apologize. It can take up to a day, sometimes even longer, for me to get that comment there. BitChute's having all sorts of trouble with comments recently. So I apologize for that in case you're over here on BitChute. Alright, so let's go ahead and give the game a review, shall we? So, as usual, the first thing that I think of when I think of video games is the video. And graphically, the game is pretty good. The light is really well done in particular. Like, as I'm watching myself run through this house, we can see that it's smoky in here. And that's reducing what we can see while we're inside this place. Both us, the player, and the character as well. His vision is also reduced slightly. I really like that. Shadows cast by your light source feel about right as well. You never seem to have enough of it. You really want a more powerful flashlight as you keep playing through it. Yeah, and as the shadows move, as you walk through densely packed areas of trees, it's really well done. It adds to the feeling that you're not really safe and you can't see everywhere that you really want to. When storms arrive and rain and mist makes things difficult to see, it's really, really well done. All of our equipment also is easily recognizable. With the exception of the shotgun and the rifle, they both look like they use the same graphic, but it's not so bad, I think. And I like the reloading animations for everything that we have here, but very, very nice. The enemies as well, they're all really recognizable, and the woods feels like a forest as we're walking through it. And speaking of the enemies, they're all nice and properly frightening, with more fearsome and alien-looking monsters as you proceed onward. The NPC images that you see as well, as you talk to them, like Wolf, or the violinist, or the cyclist, even the trader, or the Three, for example, they really capture the otherworldliness of where we find ourselves, and they add to the creepiness. Well, some of them are disgusting looking, like the snail we encountered by the radio tower. Others look kind of normal, but there's something off with them, like the chicken lady, for example, or the Three with their incredibly creepy looking masks, and the doctor as he slowly changed from being human to more savage-like as he began to be consumed by the influence of these woods. All of them look really amazing. Oh, and the dream sequences as well, they feel a bit ethereal, especially the first one. When you click the light turns off, and then you see all the bodies around you sleeping in the light, and you're crawling over them to investigate that area. So, it's really, really good. I think I can give the graphics... It's tempting to give it a 3, but I think I'll stick with a 2 for the graphics for this. Yeah, so on a 0 through 3, I give the game graphically a 2. Really, really good. For the sound of... maybe I could give it a 3. We'll leave it as a 2 at the moment. Okay. So for sound, the next part of a video game, the sound effects, and I have this separated into 2 different categories, sound itself and music. So the sound in this game is very important because, first off, you need to hear growls and grunts. You need to determine where the enemy is and what type of sound it's making, because that will help you figure out what it is. It's crucial to survival, especially mid to late game, as hearing a chomper growl should invoke a different sense of urgency and fear as opposed to a normal dog. Even a big dog is not generally as frightening as a chomper, or the roar of a human spider making its approach. And thankfully the sound is amazing. The swampers surfacing in the swamp, the rustling of trees in the wind, the way storms deafen the sounds that your character can hear, they all add to the atmosphere and sense of danger in this game. And the weapons, like the pistol and shotgun, rifle, they all sound appropriate. There is heft and weight to the sound effects. Hitting someone with the shovel or the board, it has a nice crunching sound to it, like there is an impact to it. A special mention for the creaking wooden board sounds as you walk through abandoned wooden structures later on in the game as well. Really, really, really good. Really, really good. And slight echoing that we hear inside caves, like the well we crawled down into when we were in the town some time ago. So I think they get the sound absolutely perfect. I'm going to give it a 2 on a 0 through 2. For the music is thematic and appropriate for the various areas that you find yourself in. From the nighttime eeriness that you're hearing to the beat of the wedding that matched the guy slamming his head into the table, and the abandoned homes that you hear. Even the ending music was really, really well done. I was choking up slightly this time around when we heard, because the music is kind of sad, but yet it's and happy at the same time. It's kind of odd, but it was good. It was really great. I was trying not to choke up as I was reading the ending text for our playthrough here. So I think that even though I don't have the soundtrack downloaded, I still think I will give this game a 2 on a 0 through 2 for the music. It's very appropriate and keeps that feeling of suspense or apprehension in various areas where it needs to. For the story is kind of hard to grade because I wasn't able to piece it together until I played the earlier sections a few times and really was paying attention to what it was we were discovering as we ran around the woods. Playing through it this time, again, all the way through, helped solidify my idea for what has happened in the forest and the woods and the people who used to live here. It's very tricky, though. I do wish there was something that flat out told us what happened in the game. I think it would have been helpful to actually have a sense of closure, without doubting what had actually occurred. But we don't get that. It's not necessarily bad. You have to piece it together as if you were playing like Dark Souls, right? Dark Souls, you look around at the ruins and you can wonder what happened to the people who used to live here, and the item descriptions fill in the blanks, as it were. For this game, the item descriptions are the pieces of lore you pick up and that you can examine, as well as seeing, for example, like military vehicles around and the town and how they're trying to live and stuff of that sort. So it's decent. It's a decent story. Again, it's a hard to follow story given how it's revealed to the player. And the dream sequences can be very confusing as well until you've beaten the game at least once, and in particular gotten the ending I did not go for in this playthrough. Yeah, and the actual ending itself was kind of confusing for me. I actually had to go online and look up, like, okay, what's going on here? Is this what I think it is? And it was. So, on a 0 through 3, I'm going to give the story a 2. I was tempted to give it a little lower score, but it's not like the story's bad. It's just cryptic. But it's good. It's good. I still think it's good. So next up is gameplay, and I think the main gameplay loop is solid. You need to manage your various resources to keep your home repaired. As you adventure further and further afield and make it to the more difficult to defend hideouts, you will begin using more boards and nails to repair the damage that things are doing to you. In combat itself, you have to manage your stamina if you're going to be doing melee, which you kind of need to do, and or ammunition totals if you're going to be using ranged weaponry instead. As you run around outside, you have to worry about time, another resource, because time is progressing the moment you step a little far away from your hideout. And at nighttime, you're going to die if you're not at your hideout, and you want to continue to explore and figure out a way you can get out of the woods that you found yourself in. All this adds a sense of urgency as well. You constantly are feeling that pressure that you're under a time limit. On that note, nighttime is great. Defending your home feels quite different compared to exploring the woods. You feel somewhat confined because if you go too far away from your hideout, you can't just ditch enemies walking around looking for you in this location because you have to stay kind of close to it or you're dead. The creature difficulty also rises nicely as you play through the game. You'll really miss fighting normal dogs and savages by the time you're in the swamp. Melee combat is tricky. You need to judge appropriate distance with all the different weapons so you can hit an enemy as it's leaping towards you. And or using ranged weaponry. It's the combination of waiting till you have the best accuracy with the weapon as opposed to the enemy reaching you and hitting you, and then you can no longer accurately shoot the creature. And guns feel rather strong. At the beginning of the game, it's the expense of buying ammunition that is setting you back, and later on in the game, it's the amounts of it you can buy which are holding you back, since you can buy so few bullets to get through a day, and you're probably going to end up using more of them than you can purchase unless you've been stocking up early on. So on a 0 through 3, I'm going to give it a 2 because there are a few things that could probably be better. Your character putting things in their pockets when they leap through windows is a little odd. Your character rummaging through their pack, but yet if I interact with something like, for example, these wooden logs you see myself clicking on at the moment, like I don't have to rummage through my pack to store them in it. It feels a little weird. And the game also expects you to do trial and error to discover things. It could really benefit from some additional context clues to assist you in that regard, like saying what the well does when you hover over it, and being a little more explicit about using fire to clear the gas the bugs leave behind, and so on. It hints at these things, but if you miss those hints or those initial pop-ups because you're looking at something else, for example, or you didn't even notice it, the text appearing in the bottom section of the screen, you might miss this information altogether. When I had first played through this game 3 years ago, I missed the context hint about how to get rid of the shadow armor on creatures. It wasn't only until I had already beaten the game and was playing through it and got up to the swamp a second time that I realized really what I needed to do to get rid of it. So, yeah, so I'm going to give the gameplay a 2. For the GUI and controls, the game is a bit tricky to understand since it doesn't flat out tell you where certain things are placed and used. For example, armor's gotta be placed on your hotbar. The same thing with your lantern if you actually want to benefit from it. But your pocket watch does not need to be on your hotbar for you to benefit from it. I do wish as well that it was easier for me to see figure out what the buffs and debuffs did. An example would be your eyes being burned out of your skull when you look at the red lights in the swamp. I wasn't sure what was going on and or why I was losing life at the time. In this playthrough, when the vines had grabbed me, I didn't even realize that they had grabbed me and were poisoning me because I did not notice it up in the upper left-hand corner of the screen. I wish there was some other way the game could tell me this sort of thing was happening. So, although the controls, like swinging weapons and what have you, it feels good, and I don't have any problem with the controls itself, nor looking at the inventory. I like seeing, yep, all our pop-ups as we hover over everything. It shows you how much value you have, how much on durability on an item is left. All that is great. I just wish it was easier for me to see the buffs and debuffs that were associated with this game. And so I'm thinking I'm going to give the game a 1 on a 0 through 2 for the GUI and controls. It's decent. There's a few things I wish were done a little differently. Now, you can lose points for my scoring system if you're grindy. This game is not grindy. At no point do I feel like it is boring going out and hunting down creatures to kill them for meat or trying to get the bugs killed to get their carapaces. Defending the hideout always feels exciting as well, especially on hard difficulty levels where you have a certain number of lives associated with them. So, I'm not going to dock any points. This game does not feel grindy to me. For the bugs and frustration, you can lose up to 5 points here if you forced me to delete my save file. Doom 2016, for example, would normally have scored like a 16 for me, making it one of the higher ranked games I had played, but the amount of bugs and frustration I had with Doom 2016, I couldn't even recommend the game for anybody. It was very frustrating to play that game. But anyway, for this game, there's only one glitch. Alas, I am going to dock a point for it because it's been around now for years. This is the cyclist problem, which you saw me have in this playthrough, and I think I might have had it in the last playthrough as well. When you get to the old woods, if you give the cyclist an alcohol, you can have him bring your equipment from a different hideout. But if you don't have the oven lit in the silent forest, the game will assume that you never made it there, and the only place you can actually ask for your stuff from is the dry meadow, and thus you waste an alcohol and you get nothing there because odds are you've probably moved all your stuff to this forest instead. So I'm going to dock the game 1 point for that problem. I think I've reached that hideout 3 or 4 times during my playthroughs of this game, and every single time I forget that that's the case, and I have to Alt F4, or I have to find another piece of alcohol to have them move that stuff for me. So yeah, so minus 1 point for that bug. Next up is the balance for the game. It's a 0 through 2 for my scoring system, and the enemies in the game and the difficulties of the area, combined with the different types of weapons and equipment you acquire to deal with them, all feels pretty much perfect. You always feel like you're in danger, and just when you craft a better weapon and upgrade for it, you're tested by being in a new area and fighting new creatures. So just as you get used to fighting in a zone, you're thrust into a new zone where you have to deal with new types of dangers. The evening defenses also creep up in difficulty quite nicely. At no point in this game do I ever feel 100% safe, which is a good thing for a horror game to aim for. And your constantly dwindling supplies means that you are struggling to survive. So I think they got this spot on. I'm going to give them both points. 2 points for balance. For my thumb on the scale, basically how biased I am towards liking the game, those special encounters that we get, like the wedding, we've been waiting for you, or our final evening, why did you do it? There are so many other parts of the game that are like that. When we found the dead violinist, for example, our first time encountering a chomper as we watched it change shape from a corpse on the ground that was moving and making sounds into an actual chomper. They're all so thematic, and the atmosphere in this game is perfect. I love it. I'm going to have those memories forever. So I'm thinking I'm going to give it both points here. I really, really have enjoyed my time playing this game. Both times I've played through it have been also very fun, and I like the increased difficulty on hard. We only really died, we died twice this playthrough. Once was because I was a little too close to the vines and did not realize I was dying by being strangled by them. And the other time was in the lake, which I knew we were going to probably die once in there given its incredible difficulty. But it's good. It's really good. I think I could probably play this game on Nightmare mode. Only one, basically roguelike. We die once, that's the end of our run. I could probably do that in the future as well. So, great. Absolutely good. Great for this game. Going to give it 2 points for my thumb. And the awesome ending for the game. 0 through 1. It takes a really great ending for me to award this point. I think I can give this game that 1 point. I've beaten the game twice now. And like Fallout, depending upon what you do, you find out how different things would affect the people inside the woods. This one, both of the endings I've seen so far, there might be a third ending or might be a change to how the text is addressed to you, depending upon if you made it through the radio tower dream sequence or not, which we failed to do. But now I've beaten the game in 2 different ways. One which I consider the true ending, and this ending, which I consider the happy ending. And I liked both of them very much. I felt like it adequately described what we went through and how nice it was to just be home at the end of this, in this playthrough, eat a nice hot bowl of soup, see my dog, and go to bed and get a nice evening of sleep, as opposed to staying awake and defending ourselves from the horrors that were going on. It felt so nice. It was such a wonderful ending. I loved it. It feels right to me. And the other ending, which I did not go for in this playthrough, oh, wow. What an end. So this game's gonna get that 1 point. They both feel perfect. Or at least rewarding enough that I think I can reward the game as well with 1 point there. So, unless I got my math wrong, on a scale of -5 to 20, negative 7 to 20, I can give this game a 15. It scores rather high on my meter, and I think it should. It's one of the better horror games that I have played. The setting is good, the gameplay is fun and frightening. It truly does put survive into the survival horror aspect of the game, and the horror in this game is horror as opposed to jump scares. I really like that. If it wasn't for that one glitch in the game, this would have gotten a 16 from me, which would have been amongst the more higher ranked games that I have played. So, I can recommend this game if you're looking for a tough top-down game set in a difficult world with tough enemies that'll make you panic. You're going to die quite a few times. I recommend playing the game on normal first before you leap up to hard difficulty level. And that feeling of trying to piece together what happens similar to a Dark Souls game, then this game is for you. Again, it gets a 15 out of 20 from me. It's incredibly well done, and I, again, highly recommend it. And with that said, everyone, thank you guys for watching. That will do it for me for this review. Hope you guys liked watching Darkwood again. It was a blast playing through it, and I will hope to see you guys again in the future in the next game. Take care, everyone, and thanks for watching.